Hello world. As many people know, Japan's population is declining, and like in many places around the world, it's the small, rural areas that have generally lost population to the big cities. In Kosaka, which is part of the most beautiful villages in Japan association, it's no different. And by the way, the place is beautiful, but the association can be joined by any town or village with a population of less than 10,000 that meets some basic criteria. There's 49 members in Japan at last count, but hey, it is a beautiful place. Back in the early 1900s, Kosaka mine was the most productive in all of Japan. However, by 1990, the deposits ran out and the mine closed. A population that was once over 15,000 in the 1960s is now a third of that at 5,000 in 2020. And with less people, the once crowded schools weren't so full anymore. The town used to have 4 schools, but now they have a single new combined elementary/middle school for all the area's students. So what did they do with the 4 old schools? Well, one of them became Haiko, or an abandoned school. It's located alongside Lake Tawada, the 3rd deepest lake in Japan, and it's a really gorgeous place, but there's just not many people who live in the area, so currently there's no need for a building like this. One thing I couldn't fail to notice was that despite being abandoned, nothing seems to have been broken into or touched. In fact, one could say the place looks quite welcoming. Sorry. The doors were closed, so I can't show you more. However, the other 3 schools were wholly or partially repurposed, so let's fly on over and check those out. The first is Akita Inaka School, which is what brought me down to the area in the first place. So yeah, they made a former school a school, but instead of teaching local students, they are teaching Japanese to international students. The place was actually co-founded by my friend Angela, who you might have seen in some of my previous videos.
Oh my god, she's so strong.
Are you gonna get out of the way now?
Yeah.
Okay. So the shot was supposed to be the empty, like how you're leaving it empty.
Yes, sir.
Moving on, the cool thing about this place is that they didn't do much to change the 2nd floor, so you can see how the original school looked like. Even the desks and chairs are from the old school. It's a stark difference from the 1st floor, which was totally renovated with a modern style. Not so much charm. However, what they do here is commendable. It's a print shop that those with disabilities can work in. For privacy reasons, I can't show you inside, but I promise that's the last time I'll say I can't show you. Before I delve more into the international school, let's pop on over to the least renovated of all the schools, which is now partially a community center, to see how things originally looked like. For example, this here is actually where the school teachers would sleep. My wife tells me that back in the good old days, a teacher would sleep overnight guarding the school. As far as I know, that doesn't happen anymore in the modern day school system. On the 2nd floor, it's now used as storage and as a kind of local museum. On the right, it's a traditional style rice cooker, old school plows, old school science equipment, old school piano, old school whatever this animal is. I don't know what we're doing though.
What are we learning today?
I don't know.
3, 2, 1. Oh my god!
It's actually quite dangerous with slippers, so I wouldn't recommend it. The walls were very interesting, because while I've seen hooks for hanging jackets or other items in schools, I've never seen a trench underneath before. Since it snows a lot in Akita in the winter, my best guess was that they were there to collect the meltwater from hanging items. Clever. There's even a broadcast studio in this joint. This is way too complex for a radio announcement. They have like a DJ, like scratching the... Look. We're in this part right here now.
Yeah, right now we're here in the music room. Not bad, actually.
No.
Wrong note. And I guess these are the students?
Yeah, of
These
course.
are the students. Oh, that's so cute.
I've seen that before. My kids did that too at their school. Try this one.
Hi. Hi. I'm just like embarrassing old Japanese people. Hi. Okay, that's it.
One room I was never able to get inside when I visited Japanese schools was the kitchen, but now I had free reign. Japanese school lunch, kyushoku, is virtually in all elementary schools across Japan. The students themselves have their own cooking facilities for their home economic class. I'm assuming they keep the gear here for local events, but also in the case of an emergency, like a natural disaster. In Japan, schools often double as shelters as they have plenty of room and are built with high standards to withstand the frequent earthquakes. Now, the rooms they actually renovated in this place are these two rooms, which are Japanese-style tatami rooms. These are community rooms available for anyone to use. I can guarantee you that karaoke, or karaoke, takes place here, and I wouldn't be surprised to learn that they do tea ceremonies here as well. I like how they kept the office in the same style as it was when it functioned as a school. The best thing I discovered at this place was ground golf.
ホールが8ホールあります。1本、2本、3本。ね、そこにめがけて打ちます。
That's right, it's the Japanese sport I never knew existed. In the winter, locals get together here to play. This is normally played outdoors, but because of the blanket of snow, the old school gym does the trick. When outdoors, the ball is smooth, but on the inside, it's a spiky ball, so you have to hit the balls a lot harder than you'd think. I thought these seniors would just be chilling, playing the game, but look at the spring in their steps. They even have their own club bag. If you get a hole-in-one, you can say that, hole-in-one! But since the sport was invented in Tomari, the real way to say hole-in-one is Tomari. Oh!
ここに参加するのに
はい
50円、1人50円。
Back over at the Akita Inaka school, the gym was actually being used by students.
My name is Aito.
My name is Koyuki.
My name is Natsuki.
However, these were visiting students from the local high school and elementary school here to interact with the local foreigners. And now that I said that, I don't even know if it makes sense. Can you be a local foreigner? In any case, first up was demonstrating the Yosakoi dance, often performed during festivals. After the local students demonstrated it, the international students got to jump in and try it themselves.
My name is Haruhito. Nice to meet you.
Outdoors, it was a bit of an international affair. On one side, it was Polish sausages, which in fact were locally made, and on the other, it was mochi making. And I shouldn't forget the mini bonfire and the Akita dog. I've been to many mochi making events at festivals, and this is really how it goes down. You have the experienced Obasan's work in the usu, the wooden bowl-shaped stand that holds the rice, and then the participants smash it with big wooden mallets. Water is added throughout, and it becomes a glutinous mass of deliciousness that can be covered in things like kinako, roasted soybean flour, goma, which is sesame seeds, or shoyu and nori, which is soy sauce and seaweed.
この餅できるかもしれない。よし、ここね、ここ目指して。はい。
While the participants think they're doing the hard work, it's really the Obasans who set up, coach, help make, and then clean up everything. They're the ones doing the most of it. And if you're wondering about the big camera crew, that's not me. I was all on my lonesome. Rather, it was a former student who loved this place so much that she decided to come back and make a documentary with a crew of 6. This school generally has classes in the morning and then activities in the afternoon and sometimes on the weekend. I went to a Japanese school in Tokyo meant for students getting into Senmongako, or college, and the atmosphere was completely different. They were teaching for the JLPT test, which stands for Japanese Language Proficiency Test, and even after months, fellow students weren't so great at talking. So it surprised me when I visited this program, and after its third week, beginner students were indeed talking, even if they weren't the smoothest.
11時までから6時まで飲みました。Oh.
I'm told this is because the head teacher, Yuji Sensei, focuses on speaking as a number one priority. In the intermediate class, they were better able to hold a conversation.
大変なゲームですね。
そして、終わりまで踊れば、勝つ。
なるほど。面白いですね。面白いですね。
No lie, if I could have went to a school like this instead of my 2 months in a regular Japanese school, I would have. The focus is on speaking, which I think is the part so many people studying the language struggle with. At first I was a bit confused, since this girl on the left seemed to have great pronunciation.
何を食べましたか?
I only heard her speak a tiny bit, so I thought maybe my ears were deceiving me. But then I saw her playing ping pong, and then that's when I realized, yeah, these two girls are local Japanese. The school hired local Japanese assistants to sit amongst the students and help out, which was a lot better than my 20-to-1 ratio back in my old Japanese school.
何チャンネルします見ましたか？
私は K-POP が好きなのでずっと K-POP の YouTube を見てました。
K-POP 面白いでしたか？
はい。
面白かったですか？
The blessing and curse of doing a 1-month language program in Kosaka is that you're stuck in a small town, so forced to interact with locals. In the town itself, there's not necessarily much to do, especially when you don't have a vehicle and it's winter. Luckily, the locals are friendly.
雪をね、この中に入れるんですか？そうそう。
This really has nothing to do with the video, but as a Winnipegger, I thought this system for clearing snow was spectacular. Another friendly local is Fukui-san, who is 83 years young. And is the norm with Japanese visits, food was brought. These kinds of interactions don't often occur in Tokyo, where everyone is so busy, and honestly, foreigners are not such a novelty. Another thing that would be rare in Japanese cities is singing karaoke with the mayor. Yes, Angela and I were at the local town hall when we realized it itself was a former school. But while talking to one of the city staff, he suggested we chat with the mayor. One thing led to another, and boom, a nomikai with karaoke. The mayor also dropped by the school to quickly check in on the students.
前の役場もかなり古かったんですよ。次の役場のあるところを見つけるとか建てなきゃいけなかったんですよ。ここの学校、耐震補強したばっかりなんですよ。それでここを使わなきゃいけないよな。
This is what an entrance to a school usually looks like, and this is what they've done with the town hall. Free hot tea for anyone, and yeah, I drank 4 cups. And if you've ever been into Japanese public offices, they pretty much look like this. It was so funny to see what once was a school made into a typical Japanese bureaucracy. Although I must say, everything felt roomier, from the mayor's massive office to the chambers where the council meets.
中学校を改装して役場になった時、あまり懐かしくて、私ほら入学生だったでしょ。娘が卒業生って言ったでしょ。2人でここで見に来たの。2年生の時は教室ここ。今は倉庫ですね。今は役場の 書類が保管されています。机がね、1クラス50人いたので、机がぎっしりで先生は1人、人がいっぱいいたので少しぐらい居眠りしても全然バレないようになる。これチャイム。
5時になりました。
そう。
And at 5 p.m., the chime rings and it's time to go home. So here's the deal with getting around Kosaka. The only train line closed down a while back, and the buses only run a few times a day. But in the area, there's a ton of stuff to do, so it's an incredible chance to really dive into Japanese culture.
I just got hit by snow.
So while it is tricky to travel far out on your own without a car, the school does provide transportation for so many local events and activities. While I was completely wowed by Tokyo when I first came to Japan, more and more, it's the small countryside places, the Inaka, that captures my attention. I always think of sending family and friends to the Inaka to see a different side of Japan, but without any Japanese, I think they'd have a tougher time of it than more foreign-friendly tourist places. If they had the time on their hands and wanted to take a crack at learning Japanese, this is totally where I'd steer them to. And while I didn't get to attend these, during the winter in Akita, there are so many festivals to go to. At the Naked Festival, participants wear only fundoshi, cotton thongs, as they run at night to purify themselves. At the Candy Festival, legend has it that people who buy candy from one of the vendors will fend off colds for the remainder of winter. And at the Fire and Snow Festival, they're reenacting how villagers would attempt to drive away evil spirits by swinging flaming bags of charcoal over their heads. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. What does your country do with its old abandoned schools?